Welcome, everyone, to Ask the Professor. I'm your host, Professor Ben. We get together live every Wednesday at 11:45 Eastern so we can talk about all things business, influence, sales, leadership, all the challenges that you're experiencing right now. In fact, we're here for the audience questions, for your questions. We want to see those live, or you can send them to us in between shows. We get a lot of calls that way. So excited about jumping in and diving into some of those questions. And of course, we also have Ari Justice with us as well. Ari, thank you for being here. Ari is our producer of the show. She puts everything together to make it happen, answers your questions, keeps things flowing, gets the guests lined up and in order. So Ari, thank you for jumping in and making it all happen.
Shucks, you making me blush.
Oh, that's That's a good thing. Just you're doing such a great job, so we appreciate that, and we
Thank-
can't go without a thank you for all that you are doing.
I appreciate
Um, and even with that, we got to jump in. Let's jump in because we know
Yes.
time flies as we're going through some of these hot topics. And so, for those of you that hopefully have been watching our show for the last couple of weeks, we've been really delving into DISC and communication styles. And why is it that everyone in the same room talking about the same thing sees and hears something different, has a different perspective? And that's what DISC helps us understand. And we're also talking about building trust on your team. Why is building trust on your team important? We're going to get to that as well. First, Ari, can you maybe do just your quick cheat sheet on DISC and remind the audience of the different styles in DISC and what they really mean to us?
Yeah, for sure. So I like going in like different sides of this little cheat sheet. So I'll start off on the left side. These are going to be the people that take a little bit more time and thought in their communication. So the C styles, they want to see the data before they make a decision. And the S styles, they want to make sure that you care about the results because they for sure care and they will think about it over or think about what you're saying to make sure that it's the best outcome, not only for them, but their team. The D and the I styles like to move a little faster than our S and C styles. So the I styles, they want to collaborate. They want to have this high energy and they want to be involved. So get them involved. Our D styles, they always make me laugh because they want to be brief, be bright, and be gone. These guys are moving quickly and makes decisions fairly quickly compared to the other styles.
Yeah, that be gone part is really important for D styles. And maybe that's why we keep the show so short, that we do go over a little bit. We do try to keep it short so you can get the information you need and move on, right, for those D styles. And then, of course, for those of you that want to come back week after week, you got to come back too. That's great. So thank you, Ari, for helping us understand DISC a little bit better for those of us that are new to it. Let's also talk a little bit about why trust is so important. So on the screen here, you could see this pyramid, the 5 pillars of effective teams. And this is taken from Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. For those of you that have read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. A really important structure for helping your teams be as impactful as possible. We're starting off with this foundational component, which is vulnerable trust. Really trusting each other on the team. You might call it psychological safety, right? Knowing that you may have some friction and some tension on the team. That's healthy. We need that. But you're not necessarily going to get your hand slapped or get in trouble for being you, for raising your hand when you have questions or when you see things that might need to be addressed that aren't being addressed. Like really building trust with the team. And understanding your communication style, understanding DISC is a very helpful way to start building trust with each other, to understand each other's perspectives and where they're coming from. And that's why in the last couple episodes, we've combined understanding DISC with these 5 pillars, specifically, how do we build trust and psychological safety on our team? And Ari, there's been a couple questions I think that you sent them to me. I haven't had a chance to dig into them. Let's put those on the screen and dig into a couple of those questions you've received.
Yeah, so this one actually came from our Instagram. Surprisingly, we got some.
Okay, go Instagram. Woo, okay.
So on our last show, on our last episode, if you haven't watched it, go to mybenchmarktraining.com/ask the professor. No, I'm sorry, mybenchmarktraining.com/resources/ask the professor to watch the last episodes. But on our last show, um, we talked about how people who are critical and are always right, um, this person works with someone like that, and sometimes things are cool and sometimes they seem distant and cold. How should they respond?
Ooh, I'm gonna jump in on this one, Ari, if that's okay. So, critical and always right is making me think that's probably a C style or has a high level of C style communication in just the way that they operate, which, by the way, is a great thing, right? These are people who like to get into the details, who are always analyzing things. And in a strange sort of way, their love language is being critical. Is if we do something wrong, they're going to point it out. So the first thing to remember, if this sounds like your coworker, is that that's the same way they speak to themselves is how they're speaking to you. So don't let that get under your skin. They're just maybe seeing something that you're not. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not seeing something they aren't, right? It doesn't mean that they're right, but in their best guess with the information that they've observed heavily, they're trying to point out something that's right. So once you understand that, that does remove the tension away from that part a lot. Also sounds like, hey, sometimes things are going okay. You guys are vibing and talking, and sometimes not the case. That's pretty typical with a C and or CS style because they're a little bit more introverted. They're
Yes.
going to, yeah, yes. Ari's like, yes, yes, yes. They're going to think before they speak. And maybe you are the person who asked this question is the opposite, right? They speak a lot. So the way that you communicate and the way that you express things is through words versus just thinking about them inside. So don't let that sometimes distance make things feel awkward because just knowing that they're internal. Now, at the same time, again, if you're asking this question, maybe you're leaning a little more towards I style or S style. You do like to connect with people. You like things to be more stable versus hot and cold. And it's okay to have that conversation, especially if you're working closely on a project with this person. Have that conversation with them up front. Hey, I tend to be a little bit more extroverted, and so you'll notice that I communicate a lot. If that gets on your nerves, let me know. But let's just have a plan of how we're going to communicate on this project and how we're going to work individually on this project. Have that conversation up front so that you're not getting the hot and cold treatment throughout and second guessing what's going on. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Ari, add something to that with that S style. Maybe this
You
person might be
know,
coming from.
you made a really, really good point. Well, all of them were great points, but I want to emphasize the last point you made is set those expectations up front. It's so like so many things can get lost in translation if you're assuming. If you assume this person doesn't like your work because they're cold and distant, but it could be that person is just thinking about your work and processing that information. And the reason why they're not giving you immediate feedback is because they're still processing and want to make sure they're saying the right thing versus just spitting out whatever their first initial reaction is. So setting those expectations makes it super clear that, hey, if you're taking your time to think, I'm okay with it. Give me your feedback whenever you get done. I mean, in a timely manner, but whenever you get done.
Yeah, or based on what we had planned up front, right?
Yes.
Like you started off on that. So that's a important one for sure. So great question. Do we have another one we should dig into, or do we go further into?
Well, we do have another one. I really like
Okay,
this one. We talked
okay.
about things moving quicker, and this person has a team member that moves quicker than the rest of the team. And that speed is starting to stress out some team members. So, how can they get them to slow down without stopping progress?
Ooh, that's a great one. So probably somewhere along that D style or maybe even a DI style if they're moving quick and making things happen pretty fast. And if the rest of the team is then that again, that C or that S, man, they want to make sure things are stable. They want to make sure things are accurate before we start taking big steps. And the D style wants to just move, right? There's another saying for D style, which is doing it right means doing it now. Doesn't matter if it's right or not. It's just that we're doing it now, and that's a good thing for those D styles. And there are some great advantages to that, just like there are great advantages to moving slowly and accurately. So we got to balance that based on the scenario. But if it's stressing out the team, then we need to have that upfront conversation again, right? Set some real clear ideas on timelines, on what information is needed before we get started, or before we change paths, or before we go to step 2 and to step 3, right? Because the D style is going to cover, in many cases, is going to cover 70-80% of everything and then move on, where maybe sounds like your team wants have everything covered before we move on and keep doing, taking that next second, third, fourth step. So again, those upfront conversations are important. And then to reset kind of our perspective a little bit here, also remember the way that D styles show that they care about something or that they're interested in something, the way that they show that they're being accountable for their responsibilities is by getting started quickly, by moving quickly. So it sounds like that person on your team is very likely very into what's happening, whatever the project is, and is showing their best work by moving quickly. So hopefully
Great.
that helps a little bit there. Ari, you've worked with D styles for a long time. You also see them in different light. Anything to add on that one?
You know, I was reading an article about this, and one of the points that they mentioned is encourage that D style team member to notice how others respond. Maybe you take that first draft that you quickly got done and bring it to an S or C style to get their feedback. The C style will appreciate, you coming to them for their feedback, and that'll make a little bit of a difference on how the team is getting involved. Also, if you collaborate with an I style, they will love that. They love to get involved, and maybe it's not going to stress out the team as much.
Oh man, all those absolutely great points. And by the way, I just love the fact that you, on your free time, you're like, yeah, I was reading an article about DISC and about communication styles. That's just how we roll here at Benchmark Training, right? DISC is something that we're always learning about and always digging into. It's fun and it's a passion. So I love that. That was great, Ari.
Yeah.
And really good insight there. So hopefully for those that are asking these questions, that information helps. Always happy to get on a call if we need to dig into it a little bit further and help you through a tough or rough situation. You know where to find us, so reach out to us and we will make that happen for you for sure. Let's dig back into building rapport with these different styles. In our last episode, Ari, am I right? We talked about D and we talked about I.
Yes.
And so now we need to jump into S style. And thinking about you as our resident S style, SCI style, I'll let you jump in on this one first, and then maybe I'll have something to add to it, but probably not. Go for it, Ari.
Yeah. So S styles, they're those internal thinkers. They want to make sure they're doing the right thing for the team. So when you're working with someone who is an S style, you got to make sure they feel comfortable enough to share their honest opinion, because sometimes they'll give you the opinion that they want or they think you want to hear, kind
Yeah,
of like
that's
a
right.
people pleaser um, moment that they have. So make sure you build that vulnerable trust with them. And a way to do that is to, acknowledge their work, kind of getting to know their personal side of it. Those things will definitely help. And then also showing that you are caring about the team and their work. That definitely helps build that rapport with them.
Those are so great. And to emphasize, especially for those D or I styles out there, this takes time.
Yes, it
This
takes.
is not just a, hey, I'm so glad we work together. Okay, now you vulnerably trust me, right? It does take time with S styles, probably a little bit more than the other styles. So be patient with them and be consistent with them. Harmony is such an important word for S styles.
That is so important what you said. It takes time and practice. Like you just got to continue to practice these different ways of communicating to ensure that you're building that trust. And trust does not happen overnight. I mean, it could, but it probably doesn't for most people. It takes
For
time.
I styles, it could, like, hey, I met this person, they're my best friend now. We go way back.
You're not wrong.
Nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a great way to start relationships and to network, just a little bit different than maybe some of the other styles might do this. It's pretty fun.
Very true.
Let's move over. Oh, here we go. Let's move over to C styles. First off, wow, look at all this information on this slide, right? We're speaking to the C styles specifically. There's a lot of information to consider in any situation when it comes to a C style. So you don't want to bullet point or shortcut your conversations with them. They want to get into those kind of details because they're analyzing it. In fact, if they're really interested in whatever it is you're talking about, they're going to ask for more information or go get more information on their own. Sometimes people might feel like that it's because C styles don't trust them or they're checking up on them. That's not what it's about, right? It's about that the way that they see the world is, if with more data I can be more accurate and better things will happen. And in their world, that's true. It's also something very valuable to have on your team. So bring that clear information and feel okay with the C styles wanting more information. That is not an insult to you who is having the conversation or initiating the topic. Really important. Anything I missed on the C style? Because you got a lot of C style in there too, Ari.
Yeah. So if they are not showing too much emotions, that's totally okay. Do not be offended that their emotions aren't the first thing that they present, because they lead with that analytical and logical side. And that's okay. Just don't get your feelings hurt if they're not like, woo, whenever they get the data. They're probably just looking at the paperwork and making sure that it's proper and correct.
That is true. So in their mind, when they say, "Okay, thank you, this is great," that is their way of going, "Woo, this is happening right
Yes,
now." So that's
they
good.
are. It is great.
Yep. Yeah, they're not going to say it's great if it's not. So that's one thing, for sure. So hopefully this gives everyone a little bit of that insight, right? Like, why are my coworkers acting certain ways? Why can't I get my D style coworker to slow down and really dig into the data, or my C style coworker to hurry up and move things move things faster? So we understand their perspective and where they're coming from. We got a live comment. Looks like Iris Andy said she's on lunch, and the show works out perfect for her. So glad that you're able to join us. We've seen your name here a handful of times, so thank you for that. We definitely appreciate it. And so you are a DI, surrounded by a lot of C styles. Okay, so first off, they're lucky to have you on the team because you are getting things started and moving faster. So kudos to you to that, and your team is lucky to have you. And of course, your team wanting to be accurate, wanting to gather information can help you use your superpower even faster. So that's great. So thank you, Iris, for being on the show. Great comment there. So let's go to this last visual. I'm watching our time here. We've got to wrap things up pretty quick. So we've got this last visual that sums up the conversation that we've had here on all the D styles. And a couple of things to point out here. So obviously, variety from the different communication styles of the people on your team. So if you have a good mix of this, that's a great thing because you're minimizing your blind spots as a team. You're maximizing your superpowers as a team when you've got a good heterogeneous mix of different communication styles. If you've got a homogeneous mix, meaning just maybe one or two different styles, you're going to get along better. You're going to have less friction in the day-to-day. Be careful because you're also going to miss more blind spots. Okay, so yes, you're maximizing your superpowers, but those blind spots are also there as well. So you want to make sure you're aware of that and thinking about it. And something else that's important to point out here, you hear a lot of maybe kind of entry-level advice or feedback about how to build trust or how to build rapport with people. And Ari, you've probably heard this before. People say, hey, when you meet somebody new, everyone loves talking about themselves, so ask them about themselves. Generally speaking, that is true because there are more I's and S styles in the world than there are D's and C's. Okay, so really not the world's worst advice unless you are meeting a C style for the first time. And in most cases, the last thing that a true hardcore C style wants to talk about is themselves, right? They're very internal. That is very private to them. And that's not how they want to start a conversation. So most importantly, if you take anything away from the conversations we've had about DISC, is realizing that whether you're talking about a team member, you're talking about a prospect that you're meeting for the first time or working with regularly, that their styles are going to dictate their preference on how you build rapport with them, how you maintain that relationship with them, and how you build trust with them. So be aware of those different styles that are out there and stay away from one size fits all advice about how to build rapport with somebody.
Oh,
Because
I love
yeah,
that. Because you know how like growing up, I'm sure your parents have told you, treat others the way you wanted to be treated. And
yes.
yes, that applies when it like manners and politeness, but communicating, you got to pick up their disc style and observe and assess and make sure you're communicating on the right level.
Man, that's a great one too, right? So the golden rule, treat others the way that you want to be treated. Well, if you're in a room full of I styles and you're an I style, that's great. If you're an I style and you're room full of C styles, that is not good advice. You've got to really change that. So what is that? I think it's the platinum rule, right? Which is treat others the way that they want to be treated. And DISC helps you better understand that. So if you're meeting an iStyle for the first time, yes, they do want to talk about themselves, and they do expect some small talk, whether it's about the weather or sports or just about things that are going on. They're going to find that as a necessity in starting to build trust with you. With a D style or a C style, not so much, right? Or at least minimal, because a D style is going to want to get to business quickly. And if you pick up on that and you get to business quickly, that is going to be the gateway to building trust with that D style. So very different based on the type of person that you're meeting with for the first time, or again, or extending a relationship with. Know their disc style, know their preferred communication style. That is absolutely key. And can't believe this, but we are overtime. All right, what have we done? We
I
got to
know we
go.
always do it every week.
I know. So when we come back, what is next week going to be about? Do we know yet? Do we have our topics all lined up?
Yes. So we do have a couple more audience questions that we'll cover next week about DISC and
Right.
working with their teammates. But we'll be covering the next pillar. We've already done embracing healthy conflict. You can watch that on our website. But we're going to be talking about clarifying and commitment during
Yes.
that third pillar right there.
Okay, so super important topic when it comes to building a functional team. We're going to dig into a little bit more on DISC, so that's really important. For those of you that are watching this recorded, ask your questions now. We will make sure that we get them, or we'll try our best at least to get to them on the show, on the following show. So just because you're not watching us live doesn't mean you can't engage and ask questions, just like some of our audience members from before. So we do appreciate that. And for those of you that are watching us live, thank you for jumping in. Always great to have you join us, and we will see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Bye.